"Ma'am, you need to move. This seat is reserved for our platinum members only." The flight attendant's voice cut through first class like a blade, all eyes turning to the black woman in 12A. Maya Chen closed her laptop slowly, her manicured fingers steady despite 50 pairs of eyes watching. The Apex Airlines first-class cabin buzzed with whispered conversations and the subtle sound of phones being pulled from pockets. Jessica Whitmore stood in the aisle, blonde hair pulled back in a perfect bun, her smile sharp as glass. "I'm sure there's been some confusion about your seating assignment." Other passengers shifted uncomfortably. A businessman in 14B started recording. The woman across the aisle shook her head in disgust. Maya's designer briefcase sat beside her, its subtle corporate logo catching the overhead light. She looked up calmly, her voice measured. "Have you ever been judged by the color of your skin rather than the content of your character? What would you do when your worth was questioned in front of strangers?" Jessica's condescending smile widened. "Ma'am, I understand airline policies can be confusing. Economy seating is toward the back of the aircraft." Maya reached into her purse, producing a crisp first-class boarding pass. "Seat 12A. Confirmation number Delta 749 Alpha." The flight attendant barely glanced at the ticket. "These documents can be easily forged nowadays. Mr. Richardson is one of our most valued customers." Passengers throughout the cabin pulled out phones. The man in 14B live-streamed to his social media. "This is unbelievable," he whispered to his camera. "They're removing a black woman from first class." An elderly white woman in 10C spoke up. "Excuse me, miss, but she showed you her boarding pass." Jessica's jaw tightened. "Ma'am, please don't interfere. We handle these situations according to company policy." Maya remained seated, her posture perfect. Years of boardroom negotiations had taught her the power of silence. She observed Jessica's crossed arms, the way she spoke, slower, louder, as if Maya couldn't understand English. The captain's voice crackled over the intercom. "Flight attendants, prepare for departure in 10 minutes. You see," Jessica gestured toward the speakers, "we're already behind schedule because of this confusion." A commotion at the boarding gate drew everyone's attention. A portly white man in his 50s pushed through, his face flushed with irritation. He wore an expensive suit but carried himself with the graceless entitlement of someone who'd never been told no. "Richardson," he announced to Jessica. "Sorry I'm late. Conference call ran over." Jessica's relief was palpable. "Mr. Richardson, no problem at all. I was just handling a seating issue." Richardson glanced at Maya dismissively. "Ah, yes. Thank you for taking care of this. I knew my assistant had booked correctly." He loosened his tie. "First class is so much more civilized, don't you think?" Maya's phone buzzed insistently. The caller ID read Sarah, executive assistant. She declined the call. Another buzz. Text message. "Board meeting moved to 3 p.m. Need confirmation ASAP." "Ma'am," Jessica's voice grew sharper, "I need you to gather your belongings and move to your assigned seat." "This is my assigned seat," Maya replied quietly. A young woman in 11A started recording. "This is racial profiling," she said loudly enough for everyone to hear. Jessica's cheeks flushed. "This has nothing to do with race. This is about proper documentation and company policy." Maya opened her briefcase slightly, revealing organized files and what appeared to be official corporate documents. The Apex Airlines logo was visible on several papers, but Jessica was too focused on her perceived victory to notice. Richardson settled into 12B, the seat beside Maya. "Could I get some champagne while we sort this out?" "Of course, sir," Jessica signaled to another flight attendant. Maya's phone buzzed again. This time she answered. "I'm sorry, Sarah, but I'm dealing with a customer service situation right now." "Yes, on one of our flights." Jessica froze mid-step. "Our flights." Maya continued her conversation. "Please reschedule the board meeting. And Sarah, make sure you're documenting everything about our current passenger experience evaluation." The word evaluation hung in the air like a warning bell. Richardson frowned. "Evaluation? Are you some kind of mystery shopper?" Maya ended her call and looked directly at Jessica. "I'm conducting an unscheduled assessment of our frontline customer service standards." "Heard anything?" I asked. Jessica's voice cracked slightly. The businessman in 14B leaned forward, still live streaming. Wait, did she just say our flights? Oh my God, guys, I think this woman works for the airline. Passengers started murmuring. Phones captured every angle. The hashtag Seatgate was already trending on social media. Jessica's confidence wavered, but she pressed forward. Ma'am, regardless of who you are, company policy requires proper identification for first-class seating. Maya reached into her briefcase again, her movements deliberate and calm. You're absolutely right about company policy. The captain's voice returned. 8 minutes to departure. Richardson shifted uncomfortably. Look, I don't want any trouble. If there's some mix-up— No mix-up, Jessica interrupted quickly. This is a clear case of attempted seat fraud. Maya's fingers paused on her briefcase clasp. Fraud is a serious accusation. The cabin fell silent, except for the hum of phones recording and the whispered commentary of passengers sharing the drama in real time with the world. The tension crackling through the first-class cabin reached a breaking point when Derek Thompson, the gate manager, boarded the aircraft. His rushed steps and flushed face suggested he'd been pulled from another crisis. What's the situation here? Derek asked Jessica, barely acknowledging Maya. Passenger without proper first-class credentials refusing to move, Jessica replied, her confidence returning with backup. Derek glanced at Maya, his assessment quick and apparently decisive. Ma'am, I'm going to need you to cooperate with our crew or we'll have to involve airport security. The businessman in 14B spoke to his phone screen. This is Derek Thompson, gate manager for Apex Airlines. He just threatened to call security on a black woman who showed her boarding pass. Maya remained perfectly still, her hands folded. Mr. Thompson, are you familiar with Section 14.3 of the Apex Airlines Employee Handbook regarding customer dignity protocols? Derek's eyes narrowed. Ma'am, I don't need passengers quoting policy to me. Actually, Maya said quietly, you might. 2 airport security officers appeared at the aircraft door. Their presence sent a ripple of tension through the cabin. Passengers who'd been quietly observing now openly stared and recorded. The elderly woman in 10C stood up. This is disgraceful. She showed her ticket. Please sit down, ma'am, one of the security officers said. We're handling this. Maya's phone buzzed with another call from her assistant. This time she put it on speaker briefly. Sarah, can you conference in legal? I'm experiencing a situation that may require documentation. Legal? Richardson's voice pitched higher. What kind of mystery shopper needs legal? Derek stepped closer to Maya. Ma'am, you have 2 choices. Leave voluntarily or be escorted off this aircraft. The live streaming passengers' viewer count had climbed to over 5,000. Comments flooded in. This is so wrong, sue them. What airline is this? Maya looked at Derek calmly. Are you certain you want to proceed with forced removal? Ma'am, the decision is final. Richardson, now nervous about the escalating situation, tried to lighten the mood. Look, maybe I can move to another seat. I don't want this to become a big thing. Mr. Richardson, please stay seated, Jessica said firmly. This woman is clearly trying to manipulate the situation. Maya opened her briefcase and withdrew a black leather folder. Inside were several official-looking documents, business cards, and what appeared to be corporate identification. The young woman in 11A gasped. Oh my God, look at her ID. Derek glanced over but couldn't see clearly from his angle. Ma'am, whatever credentials you think you have. I don't think I have them, Maya interrupted softly. I know I do. The captain's voice announced, 5 minutes to departure. Flight attendants, please secure the cabin. Jessica looked toward the cockpit, then back at Maya. Captain's getting impatient. Time to go. Maya's phone rang again. This time she answered immediately. Sarah, are you recording this call? Good. Can you patch in the director of operations? Derek's face showed the first crack of uncertainty. Director of operations? Yes, Maya continued into the phone. I need you to pull the employee files for Jessica Whitmore, badge number 4847, and Derek Thompson, employee ID 2193. Both Jessica and Derek paled visibly. How do you know our badge numbers? Derek demanded. Maya didn't answer directly. Instead, she spoke into her phone. Also pull the customer service incident reports for the past 6 months. I want to see if this is a pattern. The security officers exchanged glances. One of them stepped forward. "Ma'am, we need to resolve this quickly. The flight needs to depart." "Resolution is exactly what I'm working toward," Maya replied. Richardson stood up abruptly. "I don't know what's happening here, but I don't want any part of it. Jessica, just give me another seat." "Sir, please stay seated," Jessica pleaded. This woman is clearly trying to cause trouble. The live streaming passengers' audience had grown to over 10,000 viewers. The chat was exploding with outrage and demands for justice. Maya stood for the first time since the confrontation began. Her height and presence commanded the cabin's attention. She moved with the fluid grace of someone accustomed to boardrooms and high-stakes negotiations. "Mr. Thompson," she said, her voice carrying effortlessly through the cabin, "in your 3 years as gate manager, how many passengers have you personally had removed from aircraft?" Derek's mouth opened and closed. That's not relevant." "It's very relevant," Maya continued, "especially when those removal statistics are broken down by passenger demographic." The security officers looked increasingly uncomfortable. One whispered to his partner, "This doesn't feel right." Jessica, sensing the shift in dynamics, made one last desperate play. "Security, please escort this passenger off the aircraft immediately. She's disrupting our schedule and harassing crew members." Maya turned to Jessica with something that might have been pity. "Mrs. Whitmore, I'm going to give you one final opportunity to handle this situation professionally." "The decision is final," Jessica declared, but her voice shook slightly. Maya nodded slowly, as if confirming something to herself. She reached into her briefcase and withdrew a single business card. The cabin fell absolutely silent. Even the background noise of the aircraft seemed to fade as Maya held the card between two fingers. The corporate logo was clearly visible to everyone nearby. The businessman in 14B zoomed his camera on the card, his voice barely a whisper. "Holy guys, you need to see this." Derek squinted at the card from several feet away. He couldn't make out the details, but Maya's calm confidence had completely shifted the energy in the cabin. Richardson leaned forward, trying to see what had captured everyone's attention. Maya looked directly at Jessica. "Would you like to see my identification now?" Jessica's hand trembled as she reached for the business card. The moments stretched like hours as she read the simple black text on white cardstock. Her face went completely white. The card slipped from her fingers and fluttered to the cabin floor. Derek bent to pick it up, his eyes scanning the text. When he straightened, his expression had transformed from authority to pure panic. The security officers sensed the dramatic shift. "Ma'am, is everything all right here?" Maya's voice remained perfectly calm. "Officers, I believe there's been a misunderstanding. Perhaps Mr. Thompson would like to explain?" Derek's mouth moved soundlessly as he stared at the business card in his hands. Richardson, growing impatient with the theatrics, snatched the card from Derek's frozen grip. He read it once, twice, then looked up at Maya with an expression of complete shock. The entire cabin waited in electric silence for someone to break the tension. The business card felt heavier than paper in Richardson's trembling hands. He read the embossed text aloud, his voice barely above a whisper. "Maya Chen, Chief Executive Officer, Apex Airlines." The silence that followed was deafening. Jessica's legs gave out, and she gripped the seat back for support. Her perfectly arranged facade crumbled in seconds. I didn't... How was I supposed to... Derek's face cycled through emotions. Disbelief, horror, recognition, and finally pure terror. He fumbled for his radio, his hands shaking so badly he nearly dropped it. "Control, this is Thompson. I need to speak with corporate immediately." Maya remained standing, her presence now filling the cabin with quiet authority. She wasn't just a passenger anymore. Every person in that first-class section suddenly understood they'd witnessed something extraordinary. The businessman in 14B, still live-streaming, could barely contain his excitement. "Guys, she's the CEO, the actual CEO of the airline. They just tried to kick their own boss off her own plane." His viewer count had exploded to over 50,000, with comments flooding in faster than anyone could read them. Richardson slowly stood, the business card still in his hand like evidence of his complicity. "Miss Chen, I had no idea. I sincerely apologize for any— Maya's gaze stopped him mid-sentence. Mr. Richardson, you didn't just witness discrimination, you participated in it. You assumed you deserved a seat more than I did based on what, exactly? The color drained from Richardson's face. His corporate account with Apex Airlines suddenly felt very precarious. Jessica found her voice, though it came out as a strangled whisper. Miss Chen, please, I was just following what I thought was protocol. If I had known who you were— Stop, Maya said quietly, but the word carried absolute authority. If you had known who I was, so discrimination is acceptable as long as the victim has no power to fight back? The young woman in 11A started clapping slowly. Others joined in until the applause filled the cabin. The elderly woman in 10C dabbed at her eyes with a tissue. Derek's radio crackled to life. Thompson, this is corporate. We have Maya Chen listed as a passenger on your flight. Is there a problem? Derek looked at Maya with desperate eyes, silently pleading for mercy. She nodded once, giving him permission to respond. Control, we have a situation that requires immediate escalation to the highest level. Stand by, Thompson. Maya's phone buzzed with another call from her assistant. This time she answered on speaker. Sarah, I need you to document everything that's happened in the last 15 minutes. Audio, video, witness statements, social media coverage, everything. Already on it, Sarah's voice came through clearly. Legal is standing by and our crisis management team is monitoring social media. The hashtag SeekGate is trending nationally. Jessica slumped against the galley wall, her career flashing before her eyes. 3 years of training, excellent performance reviews, dreams of advancement, all dissolving in real time. Derek's radio crackled again. Thompson, we've got the regional director on the line. He wants to speak with Miss Chen immediately. Maya took the radio from Derek's trembling hands. This is Maya Chen. Ms. Chen, this is Regional Director Patterson. I'm deeply sorry for whatever has occurred. We're prepared to take immediate corrective action. Thank you, James. I'm currently conducting an unscheduled evaluation of our customer service standards. The results are educational. The security officers, who had remained silent during the revelation, stepped forward cautiously. Ms. Chen, we apologize for any confusion. We were responding to what we believed was a standard passenger dispute. Maya nodded graciously. Officers, you responded professionally to the situation as presented. No apology necessary. Her grace under pressure only highlighted the contrast with how she'd been treated moments before. Richardson cleared his throat nervously. Ms. Chen, I want to personally apologize. My behavior was completely inappropriate. Mr. Richardson, you work for Hartwell Industries, correct? His face went pale. Yes, ma'am. Hartwell has a corporate account with us worth approximately $2,300,000, 0 cents annually. I'll be very interested to discuss today's events with your CEO. Richardson sank back into his seat, the full implications of his actions finally hitting home. Maya turned her attention back to Jessica and Derek. I want both of you to understand something. This wasn't just poor customer service. This was systematic discrimination based on racial assumptions. Jessica's tears started flowing freely. Please, Miss Chen, I have 2 kids. This job is everything to me. Your children deserve a mother who treats all people with dignity and respect, Maya replied firmly but not unkindly. Derek tried one last desperate appeal. Miss Chen, I've been with Apex for 3 years. My record is spotless. Maya's assistant spoke through the phone speaker. Actually, Derek, our records show 7 passenger complaints filed against you in the past 18 months. 6 involved passengers of color. The weight of that statistic hung in the air like a damning verdict. The live streaming passengers' audience had grown to over 100,000 viewers. News outlets were already picking up the story. The viral moment was becoming a cultural event. Maya looked around the cabin at the dozens of phones still recording. Everyone here witnessed something important today. You saw how assumptions and prejudice can escalate into humiliation and injustice. She paused, her voice carrying the weight of years in corporate leadership. But you also saw that truth has power, that dignity demands respect, and that accountability isn't just a word, It's a responsibility. The captain's voice came over the intercom, more subdued than before. Miss Chen, this is Captain Rodriguez. I understand we have a situation. How would you like to proceed? Maya took the aircraft phone. Captain, we're going to have a brief delay while I address some personnel matters. Please inform the passengers we'll be departing shortly. Jessica made one final plea. Miss Chen, is there any way, any possibility of a second chance? Maya studied her for a long moment. Ms. Whitmore, second chances are earned through changed behavior, not requested through desperation. Derek stepped forward. What can we do to make this right? You can't, Maya said simply. But Apex Airlines can, and will. The businessman in 14B finally stopped recording, his hands shaking with adrenaline. This is the most incredible thing I've ever witnessed. Other passengers nodded in agreement. Many were already sharing the videos and photos they'd captured, amplifying the story across social media platforms. Maya's phone buzzed with a call from the company's chief legal officer. She answered quickly. Robert, yes, I'm aware of the exposure. We need an emergency board call within the hour. She listened for a moment, then responded, No, this isn't a crisis to be managed. This is an opportunity to demonstrate our values. Richardson stood up awkwardly. Ms. Chen, would you prefer if I took another flight? Maya considered this. Mr. Richardson, I think you should stay. Sometimes the best education comes from witnessing consequences. The security officers prepared to leave, but Maya stopped them. Officers, thank you for your patience. This situation has been resolved through proper channels. As they departed, one of them shook his head and muttered to his partner, In 20 years of security work, I've never seen anything like that. Maya finally sat back down in seat 12A. Her seat, where she'd belonged all along. She reopened her laptop and began typing notes about the incident. Jessica and Derek stood in the aisle like defendants awaiting sentencing, their futures hanging in the balance of whatever decisions Maya would make in the next few minutes. The cabin buzzed with quiet conversations as passengers shared their amazement at what they'd witnessed. Many were already posting their videos with captions like, Justice served at 30,000 feet, and When keeping it real goes right. Maya looked up from her laptop at the two employees whose lives she was about to change forever. Mr. Thompson, Miss Whitmore, we're going to have a conversation about accountability, consequences, and the future of customer service at Apex Airlines. The power dynamic had completely reversed, and everyone in that cabin knew they were witnessing something that would ripple far beyond this single flight. Maya closed her laptop and stood with the fluid authority of someone who'd spent decades making decisions that affected thousands of lives. Mr. Thompson, Ms. Whitmore, we're going to the VIP conference room at Gate 12. Immediately. The airline's executive conference room was a stark contrast to the aircraft cabin. Polished mahogany table, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the tarmac, and screens for video conferencing. Within minutes, Derek and Jessica sat across from Maya like defendants, facing judgment. Maya's assistant Sarah appeared with a tablet and recording equipment. Legal team is standing by, HR director is en route, and I have Regional Director Patterson on video call. The wall screen flickered to life, showing Patterson's worried face from corporate headquarters. Miss Chen, we're prepared to take whatever action you deem appropriate. Maya opened her briefcase and withdrew a thick folder. Let's review the facts. At 2:47 p.m., Ms. Whitmore approached me with an assumption that I didn't belong in first class. At 2:52 p.m., Mr. Thompson escalated to security without investigating. She pulled out printed social media screenshots. By 3:15 p.m., Seatgate was trending with over 2.3 million impressions. Our stock price has dropped 3.2% in after-house trading. Derek shifted uncomfortably. Ms. Shen, I was just following standard protocol for disputed seating. Standard protocol involves checking passenger manifests, reviewing documentation, and treating customers with dignity. Maya's voice remained calm, but carried steel. You did none of those things. Sarah pulled up data on her tablet. Derek, our records show you've been involved in 17 passenger removal incidents in 3 years. 15 involved minorities. The statistic landed like a physical blow. Derek's mouth opened wordlessly. Jessica tried to speak. I genuinely thought there was a mistake with the seating. Mrs. Whitmore, Maya interrupted. You assumed fraud before investigating. You spoke to me like I was intellectually inferior. You ignored my boarding pass and dismissed my concerns. Maya opened to another section of her folder. Our legal team estimates potential liability at $2,500,000, 0 cents for civil rights violations. That's before considering punitive damages or class action exposure. Patterson's voice came through the speakers with barely contained panic. Ms. Chen, what are our immediate options? Immediate termination of both employees, Maya stated without hesitation. Public acknowledgement of discrimination, comprehensive policy review. Jessica began crying. Please, I have 2 children. This job supports my entire family. Maya's expression didn't soften. Your children deserve a mother who treats all people with dignity. That's a lesson worth learning, even at great personal cost. Derek made a desperate play. Ms. Chen, my performance reviews have always been excellent. This was an isolated incident. Sarah consulted her tablet. Actually, Derek, we have documented complaints about your treatment of minority passengers, dating back 18 months. The pattern is clear. Maya pulled out another document. This is our customer satisfaction data, broken down by passenger demographics. Minority passengers rate their experience 23% lower than white passengers. That's not coincidence. It's systematic bias. Richardson, who had been quietly sitting in the corner, finally spoke. Ms. Chen, I want to make it clear that Hartwell Industries doesn't condone this behavior. Richardson, you didn't just witness discrimination. You enabled it. You assumed you deserved my seat based on racial stereotypes. Richardson's face flushed. That wasn't. I never intended. Intent matters less than impact, Maya replied firmly. Your company's $2,300,000 0 cents annual contract with Apex will be under review. The room fell silent as the financial implications sank in. Hartwell Industries employed Richardson specifically to manage corporate travel relationships. Maya turned back to Patterson on the screen. James, I want comprehensive changes implemented within 30 days. Mandatory bias training for all customer-facing staff. Diverse hiring goals. Independent oversight of complaint resolution. Absolutely, Ms. Chen. Whatever resources you need. I also want a third-party audit of our incident reports for the past 5 years. Patterns of discrimination will result in immediate termination and potential legal action. Jessica's desperation reached a breaking point. Ms. Chen, please. I'll do whatever training you require. I'll work for free during probation. Just give me one chance to prove I can change. Maya studied her for a long moment. Mrs. Whitmore, change isn't proven through promises. It's demonstrated through consistent behavior over time. Derek tried a different approach. Ms. Chen, if you terminate us, won't that just create more negative publicity? Couldn't education be more effective than punishment? Mr. Thompson, accountability isn't punishment. It's consequences for choices. You chose to treat a passenger with disrespect. That choice has consequences. Maya pulled out her phone and called another number. Robert, I need you to draft a press release. Apex Airlines takes immediate action following discrimination incident. Zero tolerance policy reinforced through personnel changes. She listened for a moment, then continued. Yes, full transparency. We're not hiding from this. We're learning from it. Patterson cleared his throat on the screen. Mrs. Chin, from a legal standpoint, immediate termination protects us from further liability claims. This isn't about legal protection, James. This is about moral clarity. Maya stood and walked to the window overlooking the tarmac. Every day, we transport 180,000 passengers. They trust us with their safety, their schedules, their dignity. When we fail that trust, we must acknowledge it and improve. She turned back to face Derek and Jessica. Your termination sends a message to every Apex employee. Discrimination has consequences. Dignity is non-negotiable. Sarah looked up from her tablet. Ms. Chen, social media response is overwhelmingly positive. Passengers are praising Apex for taking immediate action. Good. Our values aren't determined by public opinion, but it's encouraging when they align. Richardson stood awkwardly. Miss Chen, what can I do to make amends for my role in this? Maya considered this. Mr. Richardson, you can use this experience to examine your own assumptions. True allyship requires confronting uncomfortable truths about privilege and prejudice. Derek made one final plea. Ms. Chen, I have 15 years of airline experience. Doesn't that count for something? Experience without growth is just repeated mistakes, Maya replied. Your 15 years demonstrate that bias can persist despite professional development. Maya returned to her folder and withdrew 2 official documents. These are your termination letters, effective immediately. You'll receive standard severance packages and neutral references for future employment. Jessica accepted her letter with shaking hands. Will you at least acknowledge that I tried to apologize? Ms. Whitmore, you apologized when you realized who I was. True character is shown in how we treat people when we think no one important is watching. Derek stared at his termination letter. This will destroy my career in aviation. Mr. Thompson, your actions today destroyed your career. This letter simply documents the consequences. Maya gathered her papers. Sarah, please escort Mr. Thompson and Ms. Whitmore to HR for exit processing. Security will accompany them off the premises. As the terminated employees left, Patterson spoke from the screen. Ms. Chen, this was handled perfectly. You've turned a potential crisis into a teachable moment. James, the real test isn't how we handle one incident. It's whether we create lasting change that prevents future incidents. Richardson remained in the room, still processing his role in the day's events. Ms. Chen, will Hartwell Industries lose its corporate account? Maya looked at him directly. That depends on whether your company demonstrates it shares our values or merely tolerates them for business purposes. She packed her briefcase methodically. Real change requires courage. The courage to confront bias, challenge assumptions, and accept responsibility for improvement. Maya walked toward the door, then paused. Mr. Richardson, your flight back to Denver leaves in 2 hours. Use that time to consider what you learned today. As she exited the conference room, Maya felt the weight of leadership, not just running an airline, but shaping an industry's approach to dignity and respect. The real work was just beginning. 6 months later, Maya stood before the Apex Airlines Board of Directors, presenting quarterly results that told a remarkable story of transformation. Discrimination complaints have decreased by 89% since implementation of our new protocols, Maya announced to the assembled executives. Customer satisfaction scores among minority passengers have increased 35%. The boardroom screen displayed impressive metrics. Stock price recovery, social media sentiment analysis, and employee satisfaction surveys. The Seagate incident had become a catalyst for industry-wide change. Board member Patricia Wong leaned forward. Maya, walk us through the specific reforms that drove these results. Maya clicked to the next slide. First, mandatory 40-hour bias awareness training for all customer-facing employees. Not a one-time seminar, ongoing education with quarterly assessments. She highlighted key statistics. Second, our diversity hiring initiative achieved 52% minority representation in customer service roles, exceeding our 50% goal. The transformation hadn't been simple. 3 major lawsuits from terminated employees had been settled quietly. Union negotiations required delicate handling. Some veteran staff initially resisted the changes. Third, our AI monitoring system flags potential discrimination incidents in real time. Managers receive immediate alerts when customer complaints suggest bias patterns. CFO Michael Torres raised his hand. What about the financial impact? Revenue increased 12% year over year, driven primarily by improved customer loyalty and positive brand perception. The initial $3,200,000 0 investment in reforms generated $47 million 0 in additional bookings. Maya clicked to testimonial quotes from passengers. These are real comments from recent flights. Apex treats everyone with respect. Finally, an airline that values dignity. Flew Apex because of their commitment to equality. The Richardson incident had ripple effects beyond Apex. Hartwell Industries implemented their own bias training after Maya's review meeting with their CEO. Richardson himself had quietly left the company to pursue diversity consulting work. Our employee retention improved dramatically, Maya continued. Staff report higher job satisfaction when they're trained to handle difficult situations professionally rather than reactively. She pulled up social media analytics. The Seatgates story generated over 50 million impressions across platforms. 94% of mentions were positive, praising our swift action and genuine commitment to change. Board member David Chen asked, "Any lingering legal exposure?" Our civil rights investigations were closed with commendations for our proactive response. The Department of Transportation cited Apex as a model for industry best practices. Maya moved to her final slide. Industry impact. 12 major airlines have adopted similar protocols. The incident sparked federal legislation requiring bias training for transportation workers. The transformation extended beyond policy changes. Maya had established the Apex Foundation, providing scholarships for minority students pursuing aviation careers. The company partnered with historically black colleges and universities to create pipeline programs. Most importantly, Maya concluded, we've created cultural change that extends beyond compliance. Employees now see dignity and respect as core job responsibilities, not just nice-to-have values. Patricia Wong smiled. Maya, this demonstrates how crisis can become opportunity when handled with principled leadership. The meeting concluded with unanimous board approval for expanding the diversity initiatives company-wide. Mayor's handling of the discrimination incident had not only resolved immediate problems, but positioned Apex as an industry leader. Walking back to her office, Maya reflected on the journey from that tense aircraft cabin to this moment of institutional change. The viral video had been viewed over 200 million times worldwide, becoming a case study in business schools and corporate training programs. Her assistant Sarah appeared with the afternoon schedule. Your 3 p.m. interview with Harvard Business Review is confirmed. They want to discuss the leadership lessons from the incident. Maya nodded, already thinking about her message. Real power isn't about controlling others. It's about creating systems that protect everyone's dignity. The work continued, one policy change and one conversation at a time. 2 years after the incident that changed everything, Maya Chen stood at the podium of the National Aviation Diversity Summit, addressing an audience of airline executives, government officials, and civil rights leaders. The question isn't whether discrimination exists in our industry, Maya began, her voice carrying the quiet authority that had become her trademark. The question is what we do when we witness it. The audience included Richardson, now a certified diversity trainer working with transportation companies across the country. He'd transformed his moment of complicity into a mission of education. Maya's speech drew from real-life stories that resonated across industries. The Seatgate incident had become more than viral content. It sparked conversations in corporate boardrooms, family dinners, and college classrooms nationwide. Change begins with individual courage, Maya continued. One person deciding to record injustice, another choosing to speak up, someone else refusing to accept that's how things are done. The reforms at Apex had created ripple effects throughout the aviation industry. The company's stock price had reached all-time highs, driven by both financial performance and ethical leadership reputation. But institutional change requires more than individual actions. It demands systematic reform, accountability measures, and sustained commitment to dignity for all. Maya shared statistics that would have seemed impossible 2 years earlier. Industry-wide discrimination complaints down 67%, minority employment in aviation up 43%, and customer satisfaction scores reaching record levels across all demographic groups. These aren't just numbers, Maya emphasized. They represent millions of passengers who now travel with dignity intact. The audience gave her a standing ovation. But Maya knew the real victory wasn't in applause. It was in the everyday moments when respect replaced assumptions, when curiosity overcame prejudice, when systems protected rather than perpetuated inequality. As she concluded her remarks, Maya's mind returned to that aircraft cabin where everything changed. The businessman who live-streamed the incident now worked as a social justice advocate. The elderly woman who spoke up had become a symbol of allyship. Even the security officers had used their experience to improve de-escalation training. Every day, you have the power to choose dignity over discrimination, justice over complicity, courage over comfort, Maya said. The question isn't whether you'll witness injustice, it's what you'll do about it. The speech ended, but the conversation continued in airports, offices, and communities across America. Black stories, life stories, touching stories, real-life stories. They all mattered when people decided to listen, learn, and act. Maya stepped down from the podium, knowing that lasting change happened not in grand gestures, but in countless small moments when people chose to do better. Your story matters. Your voice has power. Your actions create change. Have you witnessed discrimination in your workplace, community, or travels? Share your story in the comments below. Your experience could be the catalyst someone else needs to find their courage. If this story moved you, share it with someone who needs to see that dignity and respect are never negotiable. Hit that share button and help us spread the message that every person deserves to be treated with humanity. Subscribe for more real-life stories of people who turned moments of injustice into lasting change. Together, we can create a world where everyone travels through life with their dignity intact. Remember, you have more power than you think. Sometimes the person sitting next to you might be exactly who you need them to be. How will you use your voice when it matters most?